Cool. Hi, good morning, everyone. We've just opened up the webinar, so we're going to give everyone a few minutes before we kick off, but welcome. Okay, so morning, Fabio and Juan. Welcome to the webinar today. My name is Ed Creasey. I'm from Calabrio, and today I'm going to do a presentation which is all about analytics in these rapidly changing times. And what I'm going to talk about is not all about COVID, right? I'm going to talk about the challenges we were facing before COVID hit us, and obviously some of the things that changed during COVID. Okay. So the objective of the presentation is to look at a challenge we've always had, right? Which is how to analyze the customer journey. I go back a long time to a period where omni-channel was telephone, fax, and letters. And back then we had no idea about how to analyze the customer journey. What we have now is a lot of channels. We've moved on to probably 10 or 12 channels, and we have lots of technology from ACDs and IVRs and right through to AI and analytics. But what I see, and particularly with the transformation caused this year by COVID, is that people have launched a lot of new channels. The channel shift has changed, and the challenge of having data in silos is still there. So today's agenda, I'm going to do a brief introduction to myself and Calabrio, and then I'm going to tell you a story that I think really illustrates the challenge we face with analytics around digital. I've got 3 areas of research that I think show not just what happened with the pandemic, but also the challenges around omni-channel and the challenges we have around our employees. And then I'm going to give you some examples of things you can do today. Yes, some of it, I'll give you some examples from Calabrio's software, but there are also things you can do yourself with the tools that you have today. And then we'll wrap it up and have hopefully some time for some Q&A. Okay, a little bit about Calabrio. So we're, to introduce my first buzzword, a workforce engagement management software provider. So what that really means is all the tools that a customer and an employee need to deliver a great CX, we provide. So that's capturing contacts and then be able to retrieve them. So using recording, then to be able to make sure you hit, right people, right place, right time at service level. So offering forecasting and scheduling, moving on to making sure we deliver against customer expectations with quality and coaching, and right through to a range of analytics I'm going to show you today and advanced reporting. So business intelligence. And over the years, the two ways we became a leader. Number one was putting customers, employees, and our partners first. And number two was making things easy and simple. So our integrations are easy. We make it easy to use our product, easy to buy our product, easy to be a customer ultimately. And I'll show you some examples of that today. I'm Ed Creasey, Director of Pre-Sales at Calabrio, and I've spent all my career in contact centers. So I've been from frontline agent through contact center management. I delivered consultancy for a long time, helping people use technology to improve customer experience. Now I'm moving into more the sales area, so helping people buy, whether it's quality management, analytics, workforce engagement, AI. So I've used and delivered all of those. Okay. So let's start with the challenge. And what I want to do is tell you a brief story. And I think it shows why in our digital world, we need this simple integrated analytics across all channels. Now, I want you to picture a scene. And if you're on a diet, you may relate to this story of how analytics is so important. So it's the end of July. My wife and I, like many people, have been locked down with a couple of kids for a couple of months. And initially we'd use chocolate and alcohol to cope, but eventually they caught up with us. We've been on a diet. So we needed a break like all of us. So we traveled up to Derbyshire in the UK to the Peak District. We had a rough journey. We'd had a flat tire, then the bikes fell off the bike rack on the back of the car. So we got to our location. We were a bit stressed. We might have opened a bottle of wine, and we decided, well, we deserve a takeaway. We deserve some fast food. We haven't had any for a long time. And I had a great idea. I knew of this app. I'm not going to name them, but you might know who they are. There's a few of them out there where we could check to see if there was a local takeaway. Now, I downloaded it. I had 1 megabit internet connection, but I got there and the digital journey was interesting. Setup was nice and easy. I was ready to order something and I found a curry house. I made my purchase. A few minutes later, that purchase was confirmed. 8:15 was when it was going to be delivered. Perfect. Get the kids to bed, have another glass of wine. I'm happy. My wife is happy. And then this happened. So I got called at 8:15. I'm just going to zoom in so we can see what happened. Here we go. I got called and they said they wouldn't deliver it. We were too far away. We were 4 miles away and we'd actually paid for a delivery fee, and told me to contact the company to get a refund. And I gave a pretty negative review. I wanted to give 0 stars and a very, very clear verbatim that I was unhappy and I hadn't been delivered it. But this is the problem with digital journeys. The company said they delivered it. So we have a contradiction here. All right, so the key point here is the omni-channel world is fine until it goes wrong. And then we need analytics. So let's move on to the kebab gate, as I like to call it. What happens next? Because this is a great lesson why we need better tools for analytics, because this is just a simple refund of an order that was never delivered. So I tried to contact them several ways via the app and eventually got to a point where I could have a chat. Let's have a look at this journey. Now, at a high level, I'm a grumpy middle-aged man, right? What you're seeing here is an agent who doesn't read my chat. It makes me pretty cross. Then they tell me they can't solve it. They're unempowered. Then they ask me to understand their limitations. Then they set up an escalation. And then they survey me again, which is a bad idea considering what mood I'm in. And then they sent me the wrong transcript. And can you imagine if you received this transcript? So it's from someone else who received a refund for a kebab. You can understand why I was a bit cross. Now, I do accept I was a bit grumpy on this. and I've been an agent, so I know what it's like, but I come on board and I want you to think, what could analytics help me with here? And particularly, could your analytics tools actually help you understand that journeys like this? So I get through to the advisor, and I make it very clear, I think, that, I put in all my details. This is the problem. Can you solve it? And then I get a question, could you elaborate? And then I'm cross. You can see here, is that not enough? What do you want to know? And they say, you have a missing item. Well, I didn't have a missing item. I'd explain that. And please read what I sent you. The point here is analytics. You could correlate my sentiment with this sort of questioning technique. You've definitely got some good coaching in here. But let's look at some other things we'd want to find. If you look at this part of the chat here, where I get told I'm unable to do that, call the restaurant. From a process perspective, if I searched for every single chat we were having with customers and thought, how many times do we refer them to, in this case, the restaurant, to another department, go into the store, go somewhere else? That happens a lot of the time, and it shows me broken process. Can I give a better customer experience if I stop this happening? This next one, I think, tells me a lot about employee satisfaction, employee engagement, and employees having a bad time, frankly. We all know we're working from home. It's not normal, it's complex, and particularly younger contact center agents might not even have their own office environment like I'm lucky enough to have here. And they say, please understand my limitations. Now, this is an agent having a bad day, cross customer. Again, I'd want analytics to find that. A really simple use case here, you've got the escalation. So it's classic, it's a repeat contact, it's an escalation, it's a risk of a complaint. You'd want to categorize those across all your interactions. And then finally, this gives me real insight, in fact, to my customer experience team, to my executives. You are forcing an agent to rate a chat when we already know I'm unhappy. It frustrated me that I had to do it again. It's just a poor process. And again, analytics, you could use this data to correlate, but you'd also say, well, actually, we're not going to get people to do surveys when they're in this sort of sentiment. And finally, you'll see later when I tell you the end of the story, if you've got a compliance breach like this is, you need to know that. And again, analytics can play the part. So why did I show you this story? Well, for me, it shows us something that happens when agents don't have the right tools, right? This is an agent who needs help. They need better tools, visibility, policies, process, and we need to support them better. So that's how analytics can help the employee. But it also tells me data is locked in silos. So far, in about 1 hour, I've done 2 surveys. I've used angry language. The advisors used unempowered language. A process mistake, a compliance mistake has been made. And I don't believe this advisor had any visibility of my journey. He should have done, because it was in the app, but he had no idea how cross I was and never believed me. And they still don't, frankly. Okay, so let's move on into the data. I'm going to look at 3 themes. Yes, COVID's going to be in there, but I'm focusing on analytics. But I'm looking at 2 other areas I think are really important. So let's kick off with my favorite picture from COVID, the sheep that invaded Wales. So we know the story, rapidly accelerating gradual shifts. We did a survey of 300 UK, US contact center managers and asked them what's changed. And there's 4 things I like. My favorite one will always be 87% of managers saying the contact center got more important. I don't think that it means anything more than visibility. Suddenly, retail was shut, HQ was shut, executives needed to know what was going on. The contact center was the focus. But I think that's changed for good, which is really good for us. When it comes to analytics, 3 and 4 of the managers we asked said we're getting more demands from the executive suite for insight, particularly around sentiment with the customers, which is great because hopefully that means more budget for us to get the tools we need, right? The next area is operational insight, and I think this is really important. COVID revealed gaps in insight that we kind of mitigated because we were able to be in a physical environment. So we could walk the floor and see what was going on. We could sit side by side with people. So we didn't need certain tools, but now we need to understand training issues, employee satisfaction, and even things like productivity have changed what they mean. Because if someone's adherence is bad, or their handle time is that bad, it might not mean they've got a bad attitude or a lack of skills. It might mean their home environment's a problem. So we definitely need more operational insight. We'll talk about that later. The final trend I found fascinating, that one in three managers said they're doing more quality management, more evaluations. Now we know it's a process that we kind of have to do. We don't love doing quality, but more, there was, a significant amount of people doing more, and an even more significant 44% saying they're using analytics. What I mean by that is any of the analytics tools you've got available. You don't have to buy a product for it. And I think what that says is those who invested in automation and analytics were able to keep up with the demand for evaluating the quality of customer service, but from this remote context. So that's COVID. The next trend is one of my favorites. This is all about how well prepared we are for a digital world. And it's something I've been looking at for a couple of years. And I've been asking customers across the industry a set of questions, which are around, how we deal with digital channels across different contact center domains. So if you look across the x-axis down here, what you're seeing is how many channels people are using, how they route, how they do workforce management, in this case scheduling, what quality management channels they're using, so which channels they evaluate, where they coach, and finally analytics. And what we see is a typical trend across, it's not every single channel, but we've got about 8 here. So in and outbound calls, email, back office, so traditional ones, and then web chat messaging, chatbot, social media, so some of the more recent ones. The trends are consistent. So around just channels, typical picture really. You've got most traditional channels above 80%, and then you have, some of the newer channels coming between 50 and 80% of penetration. From a point of view of routing, it's still generally just voice and back office being routed in a single queue. If you get into scheduling, again, pretty much only voice and back office, everything else was below 50%. This was interesting to me. People not evaluating social media, chatbot, and messaging, all under 10%. If you think of that journey I just showed you, maybe there's a connection there. If we're not checking those interactions, because they're probably in another application, it's not surprising the quality is different. From a point of view of coaching, the trend is pretty similar. Coaching generally happening up to web chat, but some of these other messaging channels not happening. And analytics wise, voice is getting a bit more analytics, but these other areas aren't getting it. So some really interesting trends. We know customers want a real-time digital proactive journey. I don't think we have the tools, and I think this data shows that. The final one is about Gen Z. So I think this is important because this was an issue for us before COVID, and I think with this sudden increase in digital communication, it's an opportunity and a threat. So Gen Z, for those of you who don't know, born between 95 and 2010, they've been in the workplace for 6 years. They've been studied for the last decade, and they've continued a trend that we've seen, which is generations who are behaving better but being portrayed worse. So, if we look at around drinking, this is a stunning trend from the UK. In year 2000, 13 to 15-year-olds, 72% had tried alcohol. In 2016, it was 36. So they're drinking less. They're doing more good. So this is volunteering. 30% of millennials were volunteering in the community. 46% of 14 to 6-year-olds were doing that. The relationship with social media and digital channels, like particularly around overexposure, is significant. So 13 hours a day of content are being UK 2016 and 24-year-olds are being exposed to, and they view that very specifically. So a third of the time they view as communicating. Why is that important? Because when they come into your workplace, number one, they have grown up using smartphones more than desktops, so their skill set's going to be different. Number two, if you put them into a siloed, difficult environment, that's going to be challenging. Diversity is really important to this gender. I mean, to this generation. Around gender, this is an interesting trend. We only have it going back to millennials, but only 39% of teens prefer to buy gender-specific shoes versus 57% of millennials. That question wasn't even asked to my generation, Gen X and baby boomers. But what that means, yes, there's lots of differences with gender, but for us as hiring people, people want greater contact with companies that represent a diverse culture. And that's the key trend there. I like these two trends. Millennials lacked trust. Only 36% 36% of millennials trusted the person in the street versus 61% of Gen Z. So they're more trusting, but they're less trusting of social media. So the millennials were like 40% of 12 to 15-year-olds trusted social media. That's come down. I think that's probably a good thing. The final one's a bit depressing, but it's not surprised with the state of the world right now, right? This generation is aware the planet is troubled. They've grown up with, global heating, recession, terrorism, partisan politics, and now a pandemic. And only 25% of them think their lives will be better. But this is very geographically based. GB, Spain, Belgium, France, all low. If you look at China, 75% are optimistic. And if you are someone like me, maybe a parent of a Gen Z, only 10% of Gen X think their lives are going to be better. So in summary, what does this tell us? This is a generation with a different set of needs, right? They want more diversity. They're more values led. They want you to curate their career. And then maybe they're a bit more realistic than millennials were coming into the workplace. Okay, so let's put it into some actionable advice and to finish off the presentation. What can we do around analytics? So to enable us to be smart, we've got some choices we need to make. Number one, we want to bring all our channels together. So because of legacies or IT strategy or acquisitions, many organizations have made multiple vendor, multiple sites, multiple channels, multiple ACTs, multiple CRMs. It makes insight and reporting highly complex. So we recommend bringing it all together into one view of performance to allow analysts to easily see and performance to correlate key metrics. Number two, visibility of analytics across the organization. It's really important to use simple mechanisms to push insight across the organization. So for example, if you've got a recording system, push interactions that are relevant to marketing on their desktop. Analytics can categorize those easily. Here is a set of contacts about a new product. It's such a simple thing. Doesn't need advanced AI, makes a big difference. Around dashboards, make sure people have those visibility of their KPIs at home. And an easy win is self-evaluation. Push that information to agents is a really easy win. Number three is a concept that is in a lot of technology at the moment. We call it the single pane of glass. We want all our information in one place. At a high level, that could be having your CRM and your contact center platform and your workforce optimization tools all in one place. In our world, we think having voice, text, screen, desktop all together. And finally, simplifying AI. We've all experienced AI fails. We know some machine learning tools in the workplace need a lot of specialist configuration. Chatbots can fail. Facial and speech recognition has prejudice built in sometimes. And so we recommend you make sure you balance those human skills when you train your AI models with the unique skills of machine learning. So let's look at some examples. This is what we call our Calabrio player, and it's getting your analytics all in one place. If we start at the top, lots of organizations I work with have a different call recording, digital recording, quality management, workforce management, all over, multiple applications. We put it all into one place. So you can have all these applications, including user management, on one cloud platform. Then it's a bit bombastic to call it big data, but we can bring in all the what we call metadata, so the data about the interaction into the tool. In this contact card, I could see my net promoter score, I could see my employee satisfaction, my customer demographic. I can see my transcription, so whether it's text or voice, we can transcribe it so we can see and read what's happening. I can also see in these pillars the different analytics tools. So I've got the audio when the customer and the agent is speaking. I've got the sentiment. So we use AI to say, is it positive, neutral, or negative? I can see phrases. So I can categorize the different behaviors. And if you think back to the customer example I showed you earlier, you would look for things like escalations, and it can highlight those on the contact. I've got the desktop here as well. So this is showing what that employer was doing whilst we were talking. I think that's going to be really powerful. So, I'd love to have seen what was happening on that journey. I've got also the ability to assess customer experience with a quality management form and see the screen recording all in one place. Another example I wanted to show you is simplifying analytics with with predictive quality. So this is a dashboard showing two sets of scores. One is what a human being has done. So traditional quality management is sampled. So we would, read or listen to a sample of maybe 1, 2 to 3% of contacts. And we use that to build our machine learning model to predict it across every interaction. So this dashboard here is actually showing, okay, this is what our humans think across 1 to 2%. This dashboard here is saying, but this is the score across every single interaction. So it's predicting a score for 100% of contacts. And from this dashboard down the bottom here, I can then go and target a much bigger sample of positive or negative interactions. Another thing that I think is interesting is bringing together workforce data. A lot of people have workforce management data, traditional data, shrinkage, forecast accuracy, adherence, etc. But that's just one view. It's not a balanced scorecard. Other people have contact data. Typically, you get that from your contact center platform. Contacts handled, handle time and wrap, transfers and consults, repeat contacts. You might even have analytics doing contact reason, but again, it's not the full picture. Then you might want customer data, so satisfaction, effort, surveys, product holding, tenure, revenue, and then finally employee data, your employee sat, complaints, desktop conformance, compliance, etc. The quality score. There's a lot of information in there, and we'd recommend using a business intelligence score tool that can bring it together. So I'm just going to give you a little highlight of these tools. So this is the scorecard. It's a team manager scorecard that brings together workforce management, quality management, and real-time adherence in one place. In the same way, here is an agent scorecard. And again, because we've got a single platform, we bring it all together into one place. Down here, it shows how rich you can get with quality management. So this is your quality score by site, by team, by agent, by question. Again, giving real visibility on performance. And then finally, customer journey. So bringing in IVR data, net promoter score data, sentiment data. So you can see the way sentiment has gone up and down over the journey. Okay. Couple of use cases before we close off. So sentiment analytics. So this is a retailer who had spent millions on an advertising campaign and got anecdotal information from the contact center saying, customers don't like it. Did they have to pull the campaign? Well, they had a sentiment score for 100% of interactions, and they searched that for that particular campaign and found only 0.5% of contacts were concerned. So they didn't pull the campaign. As for predictive quality, this is a BPO who had that classic challenge. They wanted to analyze 100%, but they didn't have the human resources. So they used predictive evaluation. So they had a core quality team measuring contacts, and then they predicted a score for 100% of contacts. They had a great combination of results. They saved time for evaluation. So actually they evaluated fewer calls because the machine learning was predicting it, and it improved their efficiency because they didn't have to search for contacts. So it saved them 5 to 10 minutes per contact. And it increased their CSAT because they were doing very targeted quality. Final example was just about complexity of data. This is a client of ours who had 22,000 agents, 23 states, 10 ACDs. They brought it all together and did real-time and historical data reporting. So they had a big savings in the analyst times pulling data together, but they also had a lot less time understanding and finding complaints. Okay, so to conclude, integrating data is really important. It's going to make life simpler. To end my story, I'm still got this complaint open with the company. All roads led to Rome, because every time I tried to contact them, I ended up in customer service. So this is the end of the journey. I know I've run out of time here, but what I then experienced was getting put through to the wrong department. The team manager did get back to me. The supervisor escalated me to an investigation team. I got no response, so eventually I wrote to the CEO. The CEO had left. I can understand why. So I went online and I found one phone number that wasn't customer service, who was called the investor contact, somewhere in Holland. And I spoke to this guy, told him I needed, this was an information commissioner office issue, and you needed to help me. And he put the phone down on me, and now it's a complaint with the information commissioner office. So that is everything I had to present for you today. So bring together data, simplify it, use smart analytics is my recommendation. Any questions? Okay, well, please contact me. As I said, Ed Creasey, my email address, ed.creasey@calabrio.com, and there's my phone number, 07778 688 688. If you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about analytics. And thanks for your time today.